And we'll start right at the top. And before we get into this question, if you're on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, quick thumbs up means the world, helps us get out to more people. Would be greatly appreciated. Twitter, wherever you're at. So thanks again for considering that. But I think one of the spots we have to start at the top is one of the largest fields of debate on Twitter and just everywhere is the RB position and the strategy, how to attack this position. Million different names and strategies around it. Hyper fragile, zero RB, anchor RB, all that good stuff. A million titles to it. What is your preferred strategy when you're doing these underdog best ball drafts?
Yeah, I would say I kind of vacillate back and forth between going true zero RB or going with the single elite running back in the first round and then kind of discarding running back until much later in the draft. I haven't been doing a ton of hyper fragile, mainly because the wide receiver thirst these days is so real. So if I start with 3 running backs, I did it once the other day from the 101 where I went C-Mac, Najee Harris, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I got all 3 of those guys, which seemed like a nice start, but man, it got thin at wide receiver so quickly that I felt uncomfortable. So I prefer the 0 RB or the 1 running back up top. And right now, wide receivers getting pushed up draft boards. And in basically every round, there's nice running back value. So if I use up all my running back slots early, I can't take advantage of the value later. So I prefer to go wide receiver early.
Absolutely. And when you say use up your spots, I'm guessing you're hinting towards, ideal roster construction, all that good stuff too. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit. Why have you started to go towards these 0 RB builds or these single elites? What's some data you may have learned in the past, whether it's, roster construction, different trends from last year, winners, what's kind of informing this strategy for you?
Yeah, my buddy who I do ship chasing with, Pat Carrain, he just recently wrote a really good article for NBC Sports Edge about how if we're drafting running backs, we want them to have the legendary upside. We're trying to get the Christian McCaffrey, the Todd Gurley year. These are what we're trying to hit, and they're few and far between. And basically what we end up doing collectively as drafters is we take a lot of shots at these guys, just hoping we hit on one of them. And I think the market basically agrees that outside of Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook right now, there's a lot of question marks about all of the running backs. There's upside cases for sure, but there's also holes. And the way I kind of think about drafts is, and Sean Siegel has talked about this a lot too, is we're kind of chasing that legendary upside when we're taking the Joe Mixons, even the Jonathan Taylors, and yet we're kind of bailing out the teams from the 101 and 102. Like, we're already behind the C-Mac and Dalvin Cook owner. So what's the best way to combat that? Well, getting as much wide receiver firepower in there as possible, because on a given week, we know Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, they can match the ceiling of a Dalvin or Christian McCaffrey. So that's kind of how I like to think about how do I beat these 101 and 102 teams? So I'm going to do it with the elite wide receivers. Now, that said, I'll mix it up in drafts, and I don't want to have I'm doing 150 teams in the Underdog Best Ball Mania, and I don't want them all to be the exact same structure. Whereas, sure, if I drafted one team, yeah, it would probably be like this. But I like balancing it out, knowing that there's lots of different ways this season could go.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that, again, I want to keep emphasizing this video. I loved it. I watched it over the weekend on over on Established Learn on the 10 tips. It's so well, clean, organized. I think about 15 minutes. You just hit so many awesome points. So if you're tuning into this show, make sure you catch that clip as well. It's fantastic. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments. Check out some more videos and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.